Okay, so this class is called Business Halacha. It's inspired by an institution called the Business Halacha Institution, which deals with a lot of monetary matters.
Who runs it?
Rav Chaim Cohn.
In New York?
Yeah. And they have an excellent website actually with many different cases. Good place to get cases. And the idea is to talk about practical cases, practical monetary matters, whether in business or in other situations. And usually monetary matters are, unlike other areas in Torah, they're more intuitive. They're not fully intuitive. They definitely require sources and a lot of an analysis. But they're something that people are able to relate to more without having delved much into the background of it. So it's an open panel. We'll bring out the case, everyone talk, and then we'll try to add in some sources and try to see if we could come out with conclusions. So the first case I want to talk about is actually just a case that came to me a little while ago. A relative of mine. We'll change up the details a little. We'll say that he was on a date with his kala, with his girlfriend. They went to the mall, and so he took her to a pocketbook store. And in the pocketbook store, she's browsing through the pocketbooks, seeing if she likes one, and she sees a pocketbook. She's looking inside, and she notices cash. So she looks inside, and there's a few $1,000s of cash in the pocketbook on the hook in the store. So, everyone could take their best bet. How did this money end up in the pocket? This is a real story. It happened to. I was called about this from a relative of mine, and the question was. So they wondered, who does this money belong to? Just in the mall, open in the mall. Hard to know. So she liked the pocketbook, and she liked the prize inside even more. So she decided buy the pocketbook. So she went, took the pocketbook to the cash register. She paid whatever it was, $50 for the bag, and she got herself a few $1,000s. After they came out, started to think about it a little bit. So maybe it wasn't the right thing. Maybe the money belonged to someone else. Maybe we weren't entitled to it. So really the same question you could ask about whether she could have just taken the money right out and kept it. But I think she felt a little bit, uncomfortable to take cash out of it. She didn't want to look like a drug dealer or something. So she decided to buy the whole pocketbook. So she came up with the money, and then they realized, does this money, could we keep it? Is there any issue? Is there any reason why we should assume that it could belong to anyone else? So the first topic we talk about when we're talking about lost items is the mitzvah of hashavas aveidah, of returning lost items. So in this case, it's pretty simple, that there won't be any issue of hashavas aveidah. Why? Anyone have an answer? That's one possible reason. It's in public. Anyone could take it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Before we go into that, is this place a store? Is it like did they buy used pocketbooks, or was this a brand new pocketbook?
Brand new.
So nobody just sold it.
No explanation of why it was there.
So.
Brand new store, regular new pocketbooks.
Could be somebody wanted to steal one, they forgot it, they put it in.
Everyone could guess, but no one could really come up with a good story of why it was there. No, they didn't talk to the store owner. I think it was probably of a big chain, if I remember correctly. They just bought the pocketbook, didn't think much about it, and then after they wondered, is this okay? Could I keep this pocketbook? So in terms of hashavas aveidah, there's many reasons why there won't be a requirement of hashavas aveidah. Like Sar mentioned, it's money, is not much of a siman on it. Possibly even if you would have a siman on it, maybe on the amount or something like that, it's in a public area. And besides for that, we're talking about a regular mall in America. The halacha is that only if the majority of the people that go to that location are Jewish do you have to assume that it came from a Jew. If most people... What?
Suppose you knew it was 100% of the people who were Jewish.
Okay, so good. So let's get to that case afterwards. But let's just deal with the case at hand. In terms of yeah.
So wouldn't it be the same idea as if you're on a boat and you lose your hat in the water? I mean, once it's gone, and you, if you have a sense of loss, that even down the road, if you see somebody wearing your hat, he found it on the beach.
Very good.
It has your name on it even. He's not obligated to give it back to you because you have already, by that sensation of loss, you surrendered ownership of that as a result of it.
Precisely.
So, at least on that part of it, so wouldn't this fall in the same category?
100%.
Public place and nobody knows.
Yes, that is the first reasoning that was given over there. That the concept that you're quoting is the idea of yiur, the idea of giving up hope. That when we have reason to assume that the owner gives up hope, then he relinquishes his ownership of the item, and it's permissible for anyone to take it and keep it. And even if he would later find it, it's not his anymore. If it went out of his possession and he gave up hope on it, it's open for the taking. So that was the first reason mentioned. Besides for that, it wouldn't be a requirement of hashavas aveidah of returning all this item over here, because we're talking about a place which is mostly non-Jewish customers. So there's no reason to assume that this item came from a Jew.
Why would it end up in the pocketbook to begin with?
No one could know. Everyone could take their best guess, but they didn't know. No one knows. So that's the first issue. So in terms of that, so far she could keep it. So far no issues. Now the second issue is maybe it belongs to the store. It was in the store. Maybe it belongs to the store. Now why would it belong to the store? Do we have reason to assume that it's not in the store cash register? I don't think any store is going to store their money in their pocketbook sitting on the hook. So we don't have a reason to assume that the store placed it there. The only question would be, did the store acquire it? So could anyone think of a reason why the store would acquire it? And I'll give you a hint, it has to do with Pesach. But I'm not sure how much the rabbis go into the details of what they're doing on their Pesach contract. But in the Pesach contract, the idea is that we're selling our chametz to a non-Jew, so that we're not in possession of our chametz over Pesach. Because there's question what type of kinyan, what type of acquisitions non-Jews have. There's a discussion in the Gemara in Bechoros. It talks about different kinyanim. It says the opposite kinyan applies to non-Jews as applies to Jews, and it's unclear exactly what the conclusion is. And because of that, and we're dealing with an issue of not owning chametz, the rabbis generally do many kinyanim. In order to cover all bases, they do often around 6 different acquisitions in order to ensure that at least one of them is going to work, and somehow one way or another, this chametz is going to be out of our possession. So one of the kinyanim, one of the acquisitions that's done is what's called, the Chaim mentions, called a kinyan chatzer. Chatzer literally means a courtyard, but it's not specifically limited to a courtyard. It's really to any property that a person owns. Property that a person owns is able to make acquisitions for them. This is learnt out in the Talmud and the Gemara in Bava Metzia. The Gemara says, "Chatzeroi shel adam kainaloi shelo midaito." The courtyard of a person acquires for him even unbeknownst to him. So the idea of chatzer would possibly say over here that maybe the owner, he owns the store. It was a lost item in his store. Maybe he should become the owner. Now, there's a very big limitation in the acquisition of being of acquiring with a chatzer, is that the Gemara says it needs to be mishtameres. It needs to be guarded, which means it needs to be secure. It needs to be something which is secured by the owner's property, is not something that is still subject to the public, or else the chatzer doesn't work. It has to be what's called a chatzer mishtameres, a secure courtyard, or for example, it's closed up in someone's house, it's closed up behind a fence. It's something which is secure to the owner. Only then will his courtyard acquire for him. It will acquire for him even unbeknownst to him, but it has to be secure. So in this case, seemingly, you have an example of something which is not mishtamer, which is not guarded. Because people are roaming through the store. People are walking through the store. Anyone could find this money. Everyone's looking through Pocketbook. It's open to the public. It's not mishtamer. It's not a guarded chatzer. And therefore, seemingly, in terms of kinyan chatzer, even if we would assume that kinyan chatzer does apply to a non-Jew who is the owner of the store, even if we would assume that, but it's not a chatzer mishtameres.
But what if you have like a security person, or you wanted anti-theft personnel type thing?
So that's a good point. What if you have an anti-theft?
Sure.
They just gotta.
But back to the question whether.
So Jeremy makes a good point. The Gemara talks about this called omed bitzido. The owner or his agent, for that matter, is omed bitzido, is standing by his chatzer. So even though it's not walled, but he's right there, and therefore he's able to guard it. So Jeremy's raising the point, let's say there would be some type of security over here. It's guarded from theft, let's say. So maybe it should be considered mishtamer.
But he didn't do no theft.
Oh,
He paid. He didn't do no theft.
so what Yeti is saying is that this money was open. The security guard is to prevent people from stealing pocketbooks. The security guard is not there to stop people from buying pocketbooks or from taking unowned money that is found in pocketbooks, or found on the floor for that matter. That's not part of the security guard's job. So in terms of that, really anyone could have walked in and taken this money right from there, and that's what would have happened. Anyone would have seen this money right on a pocketbook right in front, and they would have taken it. So it would seem to not be a chatzer that's mishtamer. However,
Still isn't the basic question though. It's terms of ownership, and you still don't know who the owner is. So what we're doing is it could have been somebody who just was looking at a pocketbook and dropped the money in there by accident or whatever, right? Or it could have been the store manager, or it could have been a worker, or it could have been the owner who was just passing through town because he said it's one of those chain type stores. So chances are the owner isn't really there, right? So the fact that you don't know who the owner is, doesn't that preclude anything? I mean, isn't this?
the fact that you don't know who the owner is would not be a reason that you're allowed to keep it, because you'll look into it and you'll find the owner. If the person's chatzer would acquire for, I'll give you an example. Let's say
The only thing what I think it could be is one of the workers stole money from the register and they put it in the pocketbook. And they did.
Okay, we could speculate. We could speculate all day, but we're never going to know what happened. But let's just talk about Gad's point for a second.
But you don't
know who the owner is.
You don't know who the owner is, but
and even with an investigation, you could all it be was just speculation. Because
yeah, but you could
who lost $10,000? Everybody's hand over.
That's true. But if this,
yes, rectangular, it's green.
but if the chatzer is kona, let me give you an example. Let's say instead of making this a whole mall and a whole complicated case, it would be someone who has a fenced-in backyard, a private property, a fenced-in backyard, fenced-in front yard, whatever it is, and a person's walking on the street, and they see that there's a $100 bill on this person's grass behind their fence. So their chatzer is kona for them. So I don't know who the owner is. That doesn't give me a right to take it. If I know that their chatzer, if I know that their yard acquired it for them, so I have to find out who the owner is and give it back to them.
But that's a different situation, though. That's not
Right.
private property, and you can assume that $100 bill would belong to them. So you got.
But let's say I have reason to assume not. I'll be more specific. I saw the wind blow the bill through the air and land right in this guy's courtyard.
Right.
And I see now he has in his courtyard a $50 bill. He goes out in the morning, he'll see it and he'll take it.
Yeah.
And I know he's Jewish, so I know that his chatzer acquires for him. So can I say, well, I don't know who the owner is, let me go take the $50 and keep it? No. I have to say, 1 second. Is his courtyard a chatzer mishtameres? Is it guarded? Is it a secure courtyard? The Talmud says that he acquires it. So if he acquires it when it landed in his courtyard, so it's his.
Yeah, but then you could argue
The fact that I saw it first.
How secure could it be if you just have a wind blowing the money in there? It's not that secure. because then you could have a wind blowing it out as well.
It was a 6-foot fence, and it went over the 6-foot fence.
Well, how do you get it then?
Right, we could go the other way.
I jumped. I jumped.
Right, so then
I
you could
jumped-
Go the other way.
I
Right, so we
jumped-
could go the other way.
I went on Gad's back, climbed on his shoulders, and went in, and I got it.
Whatever it takes, you know.
Okay, so the question over here is, it doesn't matter that we don't know the owner. If the courtyard acquires, then it'll be our responsibility to find out who the owner is and return it to the owner. And it won't be so complicated.
Why not?
Find out who the owner is. It's not so complicated.
Wait,
Go back to the original
Whatever
case.
in my case, in this case, in the mall, if it will be a chatzer mishamer, so I'll have to find out who it is. Right
Why
now,
would
we
you-
have no
you're
reason.
making it sound so simple. How would you go about doing it?
I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. It's not even Walmart. It has a single owner. Don't worry about it. I'll figure out who the owner
As far as how it
is.
wasn't found.
I'll figure out who the
That's a good
owner
point.
is.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
You just made a good point.
Yeah.
Suppose this pocketbook is from Walmart. They sell pocket. Okay? Okay. So you're saying go to the owner. So you call up, what is he living in Arkansas. Call up Arkansas. Can I speak to Sam Walden, please? Yeah. I found $10,000 in a pocketbook
He's not gonna
in
know.
Peoria, Illinois.
This is.
He's never
Is that
gonna
yours?
know. Nobody knows. It
No,
goes to
it's-
shipping, receiving, goes to 2,500 hands
Where's
before it goes on the
so
shelf.
how, so the whole
So
concept
that's why you
of
can take
finding
it and
it,
keep it.
it's just,
So-
it seems.
So let me just address your point very quickly. If there'll be a case like that, like Walmart, where it has many different ownerships with stocks and everything, that will add a whole new level of complication to this case. We're only on our first night here. I want to deal with a simple case. It's called Gad's Pocketbook Store, and he's the owner, and I'll find him, and I'll give it to
I
him.
have my shotgun dig, I'll completely take that thing.
Yeah.
So Jonathan say, if you already know it's too much of a hassle, maybe just leave it there and go home.
You'll spend more on lawyer fees than anything else.
I see you're spoiling him. He doesn't appreciate a couple $1,000s. Okay, very good. So far right now, it seems like she could keep it. What makes it a chatzer mishameres? Could anyone think of a reason, though, that maybe this is a chatzer mishameres? And the question is, how long should we assume this money was here for? Let's say I would assume that the money was here overnight. What happens at night in the mall? Closed, locked up.
Everything's
Wait a second, you said this was Gad's one-man show.
It's Gad's one-man show in the mall. He owns a store in the mall.
Till he came to
See how much it
till
costs
he
to
came
rent
to the
space in
shelf,
the
we
mall.
went through 69 or 100, 200 people. Till he came to the shelf. Alright? The last person was who hanged it on the shelf. So what do you mean it was there 24 hours? It's impossible in the world to even know how long it was there, what, when, where. So we're just playing like...
What if?
Okay, that's a good argument. That's a good argument. Yiddi is saying that at the end of the day, we don't have to assume that it was here overnight. He's saying, I agree. If it was here overnight, then we would maybe have a bigger issue. If we had reason to assume that it wouldn't be found during the day, and that it was there. Let's say I came in, store open 9 o'clock, and it was open 9 o'clock. I walked in, I got into the store, just opened.
They had a door prize.
So I have no reason to assume that it came in today. So Yiddi's saying, okay, there we could discuss it. In a regular case, I'll assume that it came in over the course of the day. I'll assume that it didn't come in that night. Very good. Let's go with Yiddi's assumption. If I find it at 3 p.m., so I have no reason to assume it was there overnight. I'll assume it's something that happened over the course of the day. But let's say I come in at 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock. Now I'm already changing from what happened, because I don't think she came in at 9 o'clock. I come in at 9 o'clock. I have reason to assume that it was there last night. Last night, the mall was closed up completely. No one could get in. The owner doesn't need to be midaito. He could be even shalom midaito, even without
The
it.
game is, when did this pocketbook get on the shelf?
I don't know, but I know it wasn't
It's the same
today.
thing.
I know it wasn't today.
So you know it's not. How do you know?
Because I know the store just opened 1 minute
Right, but
ago.
how do you know it was last night? Maybe it's there already a week. Nobody bought it.
Okay, great. So if it's a week,
But like I said, it's the same
so if
thing.
it's a week, we as long as it was in the store when the store was locked, then it was a chatzer mishameres at that time. All you need is 1 second. If it was in the store at that time, so if I get in at 9 o'clock,
Yeah.
and I see that nothing happened. He just he unlocks the door,
Right.
and I get in and I go straight to the pocketbooks, and I'm browsing the pocketbooks, and I see few $1,000s.
You just take it.
I know that it didn't happen today.
Correct.
I know that the store just opened, so I know it happened last night,
No cleaning crew.
at least last night. So the store was locked. So if the store was locked, then it's a chatzer mishtameres.
I don't know what that means.
Chatzer mishtameres means that means that if there was a point that it was locked, that means that if it fits the criteria of a courtyard which acquires for its owner. So if I would know that there was a point in time where this pocketbook was locked, prevented the public was prevented from coming in, and it was already in that store, then we would have a question. Maybe you don't have a right to keep it because the courtyard will be kona, the store will acquire for its owner.
If we are speculating here in terms of ownership, so what happens if the owner I receive a shipment of pocketbooks, I have a box, right? Last week, I got a nice big box of pocketbooks, and I put them out there. So every night I lock up, every morning I open up, every night I lock up, etc., right? And this shipment came in, and that money was already in the pocketbook from that shipment.
But you
So
have
it came from,
to
let me finish.
You don't know.
So,
Everything's spent.
nobody knows, but that's what I'm saying. I mean, so we're back to the same thing. You're saying that even if it's guarded, so even if it's if the money is in somebody else's, if you drop something on a boat, okay, and it's dropped by somebody else from a previous passenger, right? And they switch passengers, it's the end of the cruise and passengers come on, and it's on the boat, right? So the owner of the boat, the Queen Mary, is Cunard or whatever, right? Boat Caribbean now.
No, Queen.
So anyway, whatever. So, who's the owner there? I mean, I'm just stuck at this thing that you don't know where the money is coming from. So it's not that clear cut, even that it came from the owner or from the store, because it could have come from the factory, or it could have come overseas.
100%. The idea over here is that the money is a big question mark, and we don't have to deal with that question. That one could speculate all day about where the money came from. At the end of the day, money that is found in public property is subject to acquisition. It's subject either to acquisition of the rishos, of the courtyard, store, house, etc., private property that it's in. It could be acquired by that person without him knowing, or it could be acquired, if I find on the street, by me picking it up. But in terms of trying to trace it back, it's not our responsibility. That's not our responsibility.
Is a store in a mall considered public property, or is it private property?
So it's considered this person who had rented out this store, he has a private ownership, and he as the renter is able to acquire with kinyan chatzer. He is able to acquire with his rental over this store. It's considered a private property.
But it still has to live.
So right now we're limited to, yes.
This would only work, she could only acquire it if she bought the pocketbook, right? She can't take the money out of it, can she? Because the store owner owns everything in there, in which case it would include the money in the pocketbook, right? So as long as she bought the pocketbook at the time, she couldn't take the money and leave.
So that's a good question. The answer is like this though. If the store acquired the money, then she can't even take the money with the pocketbook because the store sold her the pocketbook, the store didn't sell her the money. So if the store acquired it, because let's say we would go with our cheshbon that we're just making, that we assume that it was there at night, and it was at night it was secure, and we assume the store owns it, then I wouldn't even have a right to buy the pocketbook with the money in it. I would have to tell the owner, and this is your money. I wouldn't be able to. And if the store did not acquire it, and I think that there's another reasoning that we'll have to bring in here to explain that.
Isn't just picking it up an act of acquisition?
But I can't acquire something that belongs to someone else. The same way in my...
Well, but if it's my store, I'm putting out my product, I picked it up, I hung it on the shelf.
The owner didn't do it. Also, the money could have been put in after it was on there.
My agent,
That all that doesn't work without knowledge. All of that
doesn't
doesn't work without knowledge. So if the worker of the store put it up, that's not going to be an acquisition for the owner. The only way the owner who's sitting in his, who's sitting in B'nai Torah, davening mincha, the only way that he's going to be acquired unbeknownst to him is if his property, it's a special, unique halacha, it's a unique law that only applies to one's guarded property, that their guarded property is able to acquire for them unbeknownst to them. Every other type of acquisition is fully revolving around me knowing about it and me doing an act of acquisition with my knowledge.
What about a hotel room and you find stuff that might have been left by some earlier person?
Okay, well, we'll have to get to that case. Well, I just want to finish this case. We'll have to get to that case.
1 second, you guys confused me a little bit.
Yeah.
In that specific case.
This case in the mall.
What are we talking about?
Yeah.
Oh no, it's in the mall. We're not sure. Morning, evening, night. What is the?
Okay, so the bottom line is like this. So we're gonna let's end with this. Okay, let's end with this. So far, what we have is like this. According to Yiddi's Svara, which is a very good Svara, if I come into the mall and I have reason to assume I have reason to assume that it came in over the course of the day. I have reason to assume I'm coming in at 3 p.m. or even 1 p.m. I have reason to assume it could have come in the morning. I don't have a requirement to assume that it came in last night. If it came in during the day, it was never guarded chatzer. It was open to the public from the time it went in. I could for sure keep it. That's Yiddi's Svara. I think it's 100% legitimate. I'll for sure keep it. I could buy the pocketbook with the money in it. I could take the money out of the pocketbook and put it in my pocket, whatever it is. And it's really an explicit halacha right here in Chosh Mishpat. Reish Samech talks about finding money in a store which is this type of a case where you have it was never guarded. And it says that the finders keepers. The customer could come and take it because the owner was never guarded for the owner, so therefore he never acquired it. The only question we would have is in a case where we have reason to assume or maybe even know. We know I walked in 9 o'clock. The store just opened. 5 minutes ago it was locked. And I see nothing happened over here. I know that the store was locked, and at the time it was locked, the money was in the wallet, was in the pocketbook. That's where we'd have a question. Maybe I shouldn't be allowed to keep it. So far, we don't have a good reason why you should be allowed to keep it. What you should have to do in such a case is you have to find the owner, call up, you'll find out it belongs to Gad. He's the owner of the store. You'll find out where his address is. You'll call him up and you'll return it. That's where we're holding so far. However, there's one more svara to bring in over here. And that is, the Talmud talks about back a couple thousand years ago when the Amorim, the Amorite homes were left over from a pre-existing Amorite civilization. It was purchased by Jews, which was then purchased by other Jews. It became a Jewish community. And the Gemara describes that eventually when they did construction on the house, they found that the walls were lined with money. And the question is, if I bought from a Jew who got it from an Amorite previously from him, however long it was before, who got this abandoned house. So if for the Amorite, so I'm not responsible, that's over. But what if I bought the house from a Jew? The Jew got it from the Amorite. The Amorite, his money has been in here for years. Do I say, well, the previous owner owned the house? Does the property does the money belong to him? Because he was the previous owner of this house. And therefore his house should acquire for him because of the law of chatzer. A house is able to acquire for you. The Gemara is clear that they kept it, that they were allowed to keep it. And the commentators ask, why were they allowed to keep it? Why didn't they have to give it back to the previous Jewish owner who had it? It was secure. They locked their house up every night. Why didn't they have to give the money back? So based on this, the commentators explain, the Rishonim explain, that there's another fundamental limitation in the idea of chatzer, in the acquisition of a courtyard. Even though in a courtyard, I'll call it property instead, just to keep it simple, property that is guarded acquires from you even unbeknownst to you, even without your knowledge. But they say that's only when it's something which you have reason to assume the owner will find out about at some point, something which is normal to come, something which is normal to find, something which is normal to come. Where the Gemara talks about an animal which ended up in his field. The Gemara talks about peirus, which fruits or goods which ended up landing in someone's. These are things which happen, at least in those times. Nowadays, maybe we'll have different examples. It has to be something which is somewhat typical. It's called ragilavo, something which happens. In the case of the Amr, you find your walls are lined with jewels. That's not something that anyone would ever think of. It's not something that the owners would ever cross their mind, and therefore, that type of unknown information does not work even for the acquisition of chatzer. So I think that over here we could maybe apply this logic and say that this person, whoever this owner is, or whoever his agent is, never happens. Cash left in a pocketbook somewhere in the store, there's no reason to ever assume that anyone would find such a mitzvah. This is something which is obvious that will just end up being seen by one of the customers. There's no reason to assume that the owner would ever pick up on such a thing. And because of that, I think that we could suggest that she did the right thing and she's allowed to keep the money, and there's no issue.
Is she required to give tzedakah with that money?
She's welcome to, but a person.
To give 10%, it's like income.
Oh, so that's a good question. Is a person obligated to give 10% to give meiser from a mitzvah that they find? Maybe. What?
No, you have to get.
Let's say, but there's no. I think that Ivan's asking: is there some type of special requirement? There's no type.
What's the difference between that?
It could be like anything else.
Wait a second. If the person
So
worked
that's a
all
question.
day, if the person worked all day for an employer and they made $1,000 that day, they'd be required to do
10%, right?
So then you found money. You didn't even have to work for it. You found money, and now you don't have to give the money.
So I would assume that the halacha of meiser does apply to mitzvah, but I haven't seen it explicitly. I'll have to look it up. I'll have to try to find it. The same as any other meiser. Same as any other meiser.
Indi Kolo.
Okay, shkayach everyone.